There's a slow progression. You know, you can go to school, you can have the best equipment, you can have the best everything, but people need to want to work with you. So you have to take time to develop your skills, and it doesn't happen overnight. You got to train your ear to know what people are going to like. You got to adapt to trends. You know, even though your taste might change over 10 years. I might do something in 10 years that I think is not great right now. So you just have to always be learning, you know, and it's a slow process to get to a point where you can probably support yourself, make a living at it, because it's a very word-of-mouth industry. They hire you because they heard something that you did and they like the sound of it, and then even then they still have to enjoy working with you. Yeah. There's a few layers to it, so there's no shortcut at all. I mean, people can get lucky and have a success, you know, earlier in their career. That's happened, but that's pretty rare. Usually it's more of a slow process where you're just growing your client base slowly and making sure you get those repeat clients. You know, a band could break up, but then those people might start 2 other bands, and then it just really grows from there. You just have to take your time, be patient, really. You know. By the time the mixing is done, you should be happy with how it sounds. I mean, you can fix problems, but ideally you love it before it goes to mastering. In mastering, you're working with a stereo file, so it's 2 tracks, left and right. If you want to make the vocals more bright and present, it could also make the cymbals and guitars brighter, and that could be bad. So it's really not a place to correct one particular thing. It's more of a global approach. But I will say one thing about mastering is that it's not as genre specific as, say, producing or mixing. If I only mastered jazz albums, I probably wouldn't be able to work every day, right? So you have to be diverse, because the other difference from mixing and mastering is, like, you can spend a whole day mixing a song, sometimes more. You can comfortably master an album in a day. Like, it's very comfortable pace. Some guys even do more than that. So in order to stay busy, you have to diversify. You have to be good in just about any genre that gets thrown at you. For people that are old enough to remember, like, when CDs first came out, you didn't realize it at the time, but they weren't all that loud. And then into the 90s, the technology became available to make CDs louder and louder. People kept pushing it further and further every year. And it got to the point where the music is just so distorted now, and people have actually gotten used to it, and especially younger kids, that's all they know. They don't know what music used to sound like. So it got really out of hand, but what's kind of saving it is the streaming services. No matter how loud you make your master, they set the playback level on their end, which means there's no need to make the loudest CD in the world anymore. But being here has, you know, it has allowed me to expand the equipment and keep upgrading that and get that to where I want it. Because I don't have as much overhead as like a big building. And the other thing too is, you know, with the internet, clients don't really come in anymore. And I do just as much stuff from other states and other countries as I do Milwaukee. After I worked in Green Bay, I moved to Madison, Wisconsin, to Smart Studios, and they would require, you know, instead of buying reels of tape, they would require bands to buy their own hard drive. Because back then, hard drive space was not so affordable. I mean, it was kind of a serious cost, so bands were required to buy their own hard drives. And I don't know how they heard of OWC, but when I got there, they were using OWC hard drives. They just said, this is what we use. You know, they ship very quickly. It shows up, you know, you could call at 5 at night, or you know, place an order like in the evening, and it's there the next day, which is great. It should be transparent. I mean, you want it to work, but you shouldn't have to think about it or fight with it and say, oh, this hard drive's acting up, or did it just crash? You know, it was just so, the OWC stuff was so robust and reliable. And, you know, then I would go on the website and I would see that it's compatible with Pro Tools. You know, years ago, Pro Tools was very particular about the chipset in the hard drives that you used to store the audio, and OWC was always very, you know, progressive about making sure it's compatible with Pro Tools and other, you know, professional, whether it be video editing or audio apps. You know, I could tell it was very friendly to the creative art community, and not just for storage, but actual performance and reliability. With the line of work I'm doing, I have to be really organized because people email me or call me looking for old files, and I have to know where it is and how it's labeled, so I know what it is. I have an app that lets me catalog all my archives, so I can search it. So if a certain artist or band emails me, I can search their name, I can find any files related to them in a matter of seconds. I keep the data cable hooked up, and I just have to plug in the power, and within seconds I have all my archives in front of me, and I can find whatever I need in seconds. This one stays in my studio by the computer. Every 15 minutes a backup will run, so that if there ever was a drive failure, or if I made a mistake and corrupted a file or something, I would only lose 15 minutes of work. And what I like about it, again, is it's bus powered. It's very discreet and it's quiet. It makes no noise. I forget that it's there. It doesn't take long to back up. I don't even have to think about it. You set it up once, you plug it in, you wait for it to do its thing, and then you're backed up.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today, and it's people like you who really make me proud of working for OWC, and we love being part of the music industry and the video industry and just in the artistic industry, and we really appreciate you buying our gear and working with us over the years.
Yeah, well, I mean, I appreciate you guys making it. I can't imagine working all these years without it. I mean, whenever I need a product, whether it's a hard drive or some other device, if there's an OWC version, I pretty much always prefer the OWC version because it's just going to be reliable, dependable, and well thought out, and I know it's going to work. I can plug it in and get to work and not think about it again.